This background music, if you're curious, is only in here to block the static noise from the microphone. Look, I'm gonna stop talking. Static. Just covers the static. A little bit at least. Makes it less annoying.
Good if I play Anna?
Yeah, you can play Anna, sure. I'll play Lucio. Wait, expert new play Lucio. You want me to play Lucio? I could also go Junk.
Oh, it's DPS.
Junk? Damian, what do you think?
No, the Junk is bad on Ilias. Let's do like...
Yeah, I can play like Reaper or McCree or something like that.
McCree. Oh, do you want...
got McCree.
You can also go Moira instead of Lucio if you want.
You wanna play Reap? Actually, no.
Ilios?
You wanna play Sombra?
Reaper's gonna be really good. Reaper's gonna be perfect.
Oh, we don't know what map it is. Oh, yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do.
Do you wanna maybe play Sombra? It's might be decent. Oh, it's well. Never mind. Someone go Orisa. Someone go Orisa. And can I put an expert noob on?
Swanky, can you go Orisa?
Actually, Bobson, can you play Lucio?
I can go Orisa. Yeah, should I go Orisa?
Eli, go Mercy. Eli, go Mercy.
Wait, am I going?
Go Lucio. Go Lucio. Go Lucio. Bobson, go Lucio. Yeah, cool.
Am I going Reaper?
We're good. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, go Reaper. Reaper's gonna be perfect. Reaper fair.
I like that.
We're good. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, go Reaper.
Could have spammed here earlier on, because people might dive. You can also have spammed here.
Reaper's gonna be perfect.
When you spam,
Reaper fair.
you start spamming here now. That's good.
I like that.
So you time it appropriately,
Because it counters Orisa Hog.
and then
If they don't run Orisa Hog, we win.
now this is the part where you start spamming the wrong area. Just no one area. In fact, the people that you want to shoot that were here, they're presently here. So you should have been prematurely preparing your fire here. Now, what you need to recognize is that you have good mechanics, but right here, in this moment, you were not aware of where the enemies were. Let's pay attention now.
We're good. Yeah.
Yeah, go Reaper.
Now, the reason why I recommend you shooting and firing here is because then you would not hit the staircase, or whatever is blocking here. You would instead hit the people who might jump with a large hitbox from the furthest way behind, and also I'd also recommend holding space until the end and then hitting this area. But the reason why you'd hold space until to get the highest, to get as far up as you possibly can, as far to maybe get an angle where you can get like 1% extra with an early rocket that you otherwise wouldn't be able to do. Now, another thing I want to bring up is when you play fire.
Yeah, cool.
Am I going?
We're good. Yeah.
Now, one thing you can do with a Mercy Pocket is you can fire a rocket to the ground and then jump with space and then use shift, and you'll go up very far in the air.
We're good. Yeah, it's fine.
Now, if you would have been double the distance you presently are, meaning you could have already started spamming the enemies from this distance if you had used the rocket, which means you got to left click against the ground and then jump. It's like the rocket jump with Soldier, but you have to be precise because there's a knockback with the rocket that you have to take advantage of.
It's gonna be perfect. Reaper fair.
Crosshair placement is good, but it's not working because of not using the mechanics I mentioned earlier. If you use this mechanics, you can start spamming and getting ultimate charge earlier on, which is very beneficial. Now, you could have done this here. You could have fired against the ground and jumped. You had the Mercy healing. You don't need to wait for your shift. You can have one of these 6 rockets in your magazine right now, give you that mobility. That is the equivalent of using shift once against the ground or whatever, every single time you want.
If they don't run Orisa Hog, we win.
Right now you're spamming here when there's no one here. You could be spamming here instead, in this gap, not here. It's very important that you put it in this gap. And you'd put it on the ground, or maybe a little bit higher here, so that if it does miss the first person, at least it's gonna hit the ground and get some splash damage. Or it's gonna... oh my god, there's an insect here. I fucking hate these people. My apologies. Now, moving on. This short line here, you can put your crosshair placement in a more precise location where enemies will kill be, because right now you're firing lateral air. You don't need to notice these wastes of time and moments, but every moment you could have possibly been at 40% ultimate charge by now if you'd done everything right from the beginning. Now, you don't play much Pharah, from my understanding, so I don't blame you, so I'm providing you with a lot of useful information. Give me a moment. Now, I'm sorry, let's get back into it.
Setting up left.
So, if you had been
So
firing the
left,
right
left
location, you would have actually been spamming people, dealing damage, and therefore getting ultimate charge. You
that
wasted a lot of
fire
time.
was
Now, every time you hit someone, you just hit remotely close. Look at your ultimate charge. You could have been doing this like 10, 15 seconds ago. You could have started this much earlier. Now look at your mechanics. You have good aim. But you could have been 80% ultimate charge by now. You could have had your barrage ready for the next fight. You could have been flanking somewhere and ready to use it. You just didn't have your crosshair placed in the right areas prematurely before the fight started. And this is a huge disadvantage, so large you don't even notice. Because you didn't use the mechanic of firing a rocket against the ground and then pressing space to accelerate yourself up in there, and then you can decide whether or not it's necessary to use shift or not. Because shift can be used in the air. Every time when you're on the ground, you should use a rocket and then jump if you have a mercy with you. Every time, no exception. Well, there are of course some exceptions, but not really applicable in most situations, so just ignore them. Now, from my understanding, your aim is very precise and good. You can clearly see that and tell.
I'm low on health if I can get some. Yeah, I got you.
Now, right here, once again, let's see.
I'm low on health if I can get.
Here you could have fired against the ground with a rocket and then press space again. You could have been firing towards spawn already, because the first person who died might very well be respawning now. In addition, you should also have the micro habit of pressing tab to look at people respawning, because you might not memorize who is going to come out first. In addition, you should be looking towards spawn.
Yeah, I got you.
Now,
Don't fall in the pity.
you're going to look towards spawn right now. That's good, and you can prematurely fire. But whenever you do want to fire certain areas, if you want to fire a rocket against spawn in the beginning, let me show you. Here. One thing is you can stand on this ledge, and then you can just fly into the air normally and use this as cover. If you fly too far up into the air, someone like Widowmaker and then maybe someone else from a long distance could actually reliably kill you. Which is why when you do want to peek somewhere, like you're about to do when you want to fire your rockets against spawn, you want to have cover around you, because when you fly so far and high up into the air, you have no visible cover. So that means that anyone on the enemy team right now, when they see you fly up this far, they could switch to Widowmaker, headshot you, and then switch back and just proceed as normal. That's something they actually have done in Overwatch League and in Top 500 games several times, when they see Pharos playing like this and overextending so wildly. So, and you don't always have to follow this rule of using cover and stuff, but like a good rule is that a good Pharah is going to make it so that you can barely see her at all times from a long distance, but she's firing rockets at you from her own spawn. Like she's in her own spawn, firing rockets at you in your own spawn. And you can only see like a pixel of her screen or whatever. Like imagine there was a firing rockets at you, you can barely see like anything from her from this distance. But if she's up in the air like here, it's very easy and noticeable for anyone, no matter where they might be. So what this does is it's sort of called holding an angle. And you could, for instance, be left side right now. You could be firing towards this choke right here, and that means the people back behind in this region would not see you as you're up here firing rockets only in this center focused area. But the people that you're firing at will always be able to see you, because otherwise you can't fire them. So another mechanic that can be used is you fire, take cover, go back up, fire, take cover, go back up. But whenever you go back up, you shouldn't go back up in the same locations, because that's predictable. So that's why you want to change the locations once in a while, or do some variants. Like you shouldn't just pop up and down, like in a straight line. Sometimes you can use some variants, sometimes go left, sometimes go right, because then you have to force them to use mechanical skill and might not be entirely accurate. At least they can't use place for crosshair after seeing you pop up somewhere once, and then you pop up again and get headshot. Like right here, you could have fired here. Let's see if some enemies pop up here.
A little bit of heals right here too.
See? They popped up, and the rocket would have hit precisely when the enemy came on that location.
Popped off.
Now you're going to take cover, first and foremost. You could have taken cover here. Doesn't really matter. Could have gone higher.
Off.
But why higher would be better is, for one,
Off.
when you're above, the people won't notice you as easily. Not always. See, right here. Yeah, good, very good.
I'm watching left room.
Yeah, and right here, what you could be doing is, you know this thing, I think you use it sometimes, but you could be like around this area, like taking this angle, and making so you can use barely seated people in the region. Now, whether or not you have to do this is questionable.
Popped off.
Wait, is that a Widowmaker?
Got a heals right here too.
No, it's a Farah rocket. Let's see if you can see the Farah from...
Heals right here too.
She fired a rocket here, she's currently flying down. It seems like she's likely right side.
off.
The Farah's gonna come right side. That's what my gut feeling is.
I'm watching left room.
Okay, right side, told you. The Mercy's presently around this area. You could actually pre-fire a rocket here and you'd probably hit the Mercy. You could also pre-fire a rocket either here, here, or here. Because from here the soldier might sprint, meaning he'll move faster. The most safe option would be this one, the red one. The preferable second option, like the one I would do, is either the red one here or the green one here. In addition, if you go back a few seconds, let's see.
I'm looking.
Could fire one here.
Okay, I'm watching.
You'll see that that rocket would have then hit the Orisa, because by the time the rocket hit, Orisa would be here. And now you could have fired another rocket, because you see the soldier weaving back and forth. So he's in this zone. Look in this zone. So what you can do then is, in this zone that he's moving very predictably, if you fire here, it's guaranteed to deal some splash damage no matter what. And in some cases, if you're lucky, a direct hit. And if you're lucky, the Lucio will move in as well, and you get more damage, which means more ultimate charge. And you want your ultimate charge as soon as possible. Now, in the case of when you play against hit scan, that's when you'd want to use the cover. You want to make it so that when you're firing at someone, only that person you're firing at can see you. And then you change angles constantly, using cover to your advantage, maximizing your field of view gains, and playing in the smartest, safest possible way, whilst not mitigating or reducing the amount of damage you can deal. Because when you're dead from overextending, you can't deal damage. So depending against what SR range, that changes. But this is what I mean when playing safer as well, because it's a valuable technique to learn. Because if you can execute this properly, you can hard carry whilst playing safe with your team. You don't have to take any risk, and you can kill everyone on enemy team from a distance with Hanso, for instance. Hitting constant headshots with good prediction. So let's see here now. I'm gonna try to predict shots. Now Mercy and Far, they're both coming right side here. Here, what you should have done is, like, if you fire her, like, look at the Orisa here. Right now, if you fire her right now, she's looking at the ground about to place a shield. If you fire, by the time that you've hit, you're gonna hit the shield. So when you could have fired and hit the Orisa here, it's very simple. She first needs to get into position. So what you do is you fire rocket now. She's not gonna place a shield right now. She's gonna walk closer, you can tell. Another thing you can predict is you could have fired a rocket when you saw the glimpse of her here, about here, because you know she's gonna move into position to put a shield. And then you can start moving. In my opinion, moving forward right now would be a bad idea, because the soldier would kill you in combination with the Farah. So let's see, you hold your distance, then you move higher up so you can hold an angle. Very good. You can spam the Orisa now. You got the soldier. Now, as you got the soldier, you can move in and you can have stronger positioning. Now you're above the Farah. Very good position to be in. You can easily land shots on the Farah. If you shoot here right now, you'll likely hit the Farah. You didn't hit because of the Orisa barrier, and she went down and was covered by it. Now you'd go here ish.
Somewhere.
Because she's gonna maintain altitude. She just used her shift, and she's gonna hang in air for a bit. Now she's gonna, if you hit here, you're gonna hit her.
Mercy.
Told you. With Mercy, she seems like she's gonna hit the ground. So let's go back here. Let me show you. Look at the Mercy.
Mercy.
She's gonna go for the ground, so now you can hit the ground around this area. Let's see if she is gonna hit the ground. She hits the ground. You would have been able to deal damage to the Mercy there. You could have been, like, I'm gonna tell you theoretically, right now you're 85% ultimate charge, but you had the potential to be double or triple this. You could have used your barrage by now and gotten another ultimate. You could have been that efficient with your ultimate gathering. And that's just one of the things you could have improved upon. So here, if you place your crosshair, like, this is teaching you about cross replacement, because a lot of the time I notice that you're aiming, but you're predicting the wrong areas. And you're trying to flick unnecessarily. Like right now, this is a flick, look. You're trying to flick when you don't have to. Flicks should only be done when needed. Flicks are, for instance, when there's someone behind you, you need to move your crosshair there as soon as possible, because you can't you don't have enough time to react. You have to take the time given to you, you have to take the risk. With tracking, look. You know where they're going, it's right in front of you, they're close. There's no other immediate threats. You've already won the fight. Right now you can use the precise tracking. You shouldn't try to do immediate flicks. One thing you can do is to track them, and then you do micro flicks, very slight ones. So you track, and then right when you shoot, you do a micro flick towards where you think they're gonna go. So you can be very, very accurate with your crosshair placement on the target, and then a micro flick in the direction you think they're going. A micro flick is called a micro flick because it's not a large one. Now I'm gonna look at your flick right now. Let's take a look. So I see a lot of things wrong here. For one, look at your crosshair placement. Your crosshair's here and the enemy is here. Let's look at how you aim.
Mercy.
You have your crosshair down, and then you move up towards the target. Down, up, down, up, down, up. You'll see some players do this. One thing I guarantee is that the reason why they can do this reliably is because they have a very low DPI with a large crosshair. This is not a normal aim technique. So right now, look at your aim. Look, you're basically shaking it. I'm gonna send you at home work and educational videos. This will hit.
Are you healing?
No, it didn't. Let's see. Let's see what was wrong. What went wrong? Should have been here, and you would have hit. Let's see. Let's see even one of collision. See, when you flick, you can't reliably know where you're gonna hit them. You have a very low EDPI and a very good muscle memory. This is something you shouldn't require pinpoint precision with any heroes besides perhaps McCree and Widowmaker. Do you know why? Because they have hit scan. With this hero, Pharah, you benefit from tracking and then micro flicks, which is something you also benefit from with Hanzo. It's a very peculiar aim technique. Like I'm going to show you Raksu aim. Okay, so let's see Raksu. Let's see Raksu montage. Look at his aim. Okay, so this is a tutorial and show you an example. Look at his aim technique. Tracking, flick. Tracking. Tracking. Flick. But close crosshair placement. Look how clean it is. Tracking, flick, tracking, flick. Simple, easy. Let's go back here. Let's look at how he did the Diva. So he could tell the Diva mech was self-destructing. He placed his crosshair, and then he just timed it. He knew where she was gonna fall through after she did a Diva bomb, and he just timed it at the right time. Because right when she falls out, she's easy to hit. If you know the timing. She's not easy to hit, like it's more reliable than hitting her when she's falling down, for instance. But this is to do crosshair placement, and then if you notice, pay attention. Look at the crosshair. Now tell me, it's tracking, and then this is pure tracking with a little bit of a micro flick. Not really though, but we'll show you more examples of micro flicks. What you're trying to do is a very chaotic version of the flick. Your flicks are messy and unnecessary. Look, tracking, micro flick, tracking. With this one, you don't really need to do the micro flicks. You don't need to do. You just do the tracking, and then every time you click, you do a micro flick. Or you can just track accurately. It depends. Look, gets the health back. Let's go back here. Look at that again. Look at how he shot there. Look at his crosshair. Where is his crosshair placed? He places a crosshair where the enemy is going to be. First he shoots there. Let's see it. He puts a sonar on the shield so you can see them through. Doesn't see anyone get headshot. Could have maybe actually headshot this thing out of there. But look at where his crosshair is now. Micro flick. Gonna wall climb. Crosshair placement. Timing. Timing. How does he know that person is there? That's game sense. Where do you put the Dragon Strike? Tell me. Look. Put the Dragon Strike here so they can't walk through this area. Zone them out. Put a crosshair here. He knows what hero is going to come to respawn. He knows when they die. If he knows the situation right now, there's no one else that this person can fly to. He knows the first person to die at the beginning was the Mercy. He knows how much time a Mercy takes to walk out of spawn. He knows the Mercy's not going left side right now because there's a Dragon Strike there. He knows the Mercy's not likely waiting and going the same area because there's already a lot of enemies there who are being killed and cleaned up. So the Mercy's going to go through this direction and try to slowly touch point because she doesn't have any other options. Right now, if she doesn't touch point, they're going to lose the game. They're gonna lose the point. Place the crosshair. Game sense. That's game sense. Crosshair placement and game sense. Predictability. Internal gut feeling, internal clock. That's game sense. That's a very nice shot. That was an insane one. Look. Tracking. Tracking. Flick. This is clean aim. Tracking. Flick. You don't notice it, but that's a flick. See how micro these flicks are? Tracking is always on the crosshair. Always on the crosshair. That's tracking. He combines the techniques of aiming together. He understands how they work and he uses them in a clean manner and clean way. Now, if you're wondering why he's doing this, look, I'm gonna show you. Not this part. If you're wondering why he's doing this, look, I'm gonna show you. Look, charge arrow, jump, charge arrow, jump, charge arrow, jump. Because when he jumps as he's charging the arrow, his movement speed doesn't slow as he's jumping if he charges the arrow at the right time when he jumps. This is a very normal phenomenon and technique you'll see. Headshot, crosshair placement. Crosshair placement. Look at the crosshair placement. Before he moves into an area, where to move any likely to be. Checks this area. Checks this area. Keeps it high because maybe there's someone high ground. Keeps it low. Sees the Widowmaker. Moves up. Decides not to go for the Widowmaker. Sees Mercy. Places crosshair where the Mercy is likely at. Times left click, starts charging an arrow, has an arrow charged, uses the mechanic of pressing space and charging an arrow to keeps the movement speed reduction in mind when playing. Charged as an arrow. Would not have been possible without good crosshair placement. Good crosshair placement equals good aim. Oh. Now let's look at the good crosshair placement before he wall climbs. He keeps it up and then centers it, goes low, and then, because he's jumping, he keeps it slightly under. Not middle center of screen, slightly under. Kills them. One headshot in the head. That would, like if you look, he does a half charge arrow without using rapid fire, and then uses rapid fire to just finish them off. This is a 4.7k players. And the reason why he can be 4.7k is because a lot of game sense. Even his aiming, the aiming with Pharah and the aiming with projectile heroes is not pure mechanics. It is game sense. You need to predict where the enemies will move based upon their movement speed, based upon their abilities, based upon the map environment, based upon everything. All the information available in the game. You have to base all the consideration, all the opinions, all the things you do based around this information, based around this frame. So.
Are you healing? Healing? I'm tickling.
So this shot on the Mercy, due to impeccable cross replacement. Look, let's see.
Tickling.
Let's look again. See before.
Healing.
This was a nice flick. Like this is when you can do a flick.
Are you healing?
This is a perfect example of when you should do a flick. You can but if you have perfect tracking, you can start tracking and then turn it into a flick if you do it fast enough. Because you'll know the Mercy was here, so you can place your crosshair here, and then you can start moving it upwards as she's flying. But flicking, you had good crosshair placement. You don't realize that, but the reason why the flick was possible is because of good crosshair placement.
Healing.
And it was simple, one movement. When you flick like, do you notice how difficult it is and how much frequently you miss? There's a reason behind this.
I'm tickling the Pharah.
Look,
Hey, I'm gonna hold this
there
way.
you could have actually hit the Mercy. Look,
Hey,
I'll show you.
Are you healing? Healing. I'm
This
tickling.
shot and then here, I think.
I'm tickling.
No, not here. Here. Here, maybe.
Playing fair.
Or here. Try to predict. Yeah, you could have hit her there, maybe. No, I'll go for here. You could have hit her. If you would have hit the Mercy there. She's hitting the ground right now. If you put the fire there, she would have actually been killed by the second shot.
Hey, I'm gonna ult
That's his
this fight, guys.
predictability. Here, you could have fired here. Could have maybe hit her. Fired here. Fired here. The reason why I'm predicting like this is, look, game sense. Okay. Then in this case, she's gonna be the one to be with the team. Try here. Okay. She might have been hit by that maybe. And then, she's going for the ground. Let's go here. Exactly where the ground hits would have finished her.
Hey, I'm gonna ult this fight, guys.
Okay. In this case, she's gonna go up. You can tell she's elevating based upon her hitbox. You could have maybe hit her. That was too close.
This fight, guys.
Wants to put. You should put it here.
Is that okay?
Could have maybe hit it.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
You have barrage. Now with the Roadhog, I put the crosshair here because look. See the Roadhog? He's moving forward. If you put it here, it's gonna move into the rocket. In addition, below, like when you're here, you could have fired a rocket here. You're gonna hit the people you can't even see. You see the people here. Very good example.
Yeah, I'll get some speeds.
So to see the soldier. When the soldier moves in, what you could do is you could, if you were smart, you wouldn't use your shift to accelerate every time you've been against the ground, fired a rocket, and then press space, so you'd have space again. And you could have fired a rocket. You could have used space again and then fired a rocket in here to shoot the soldier. Who won't have access to any healing from the Mercy, so he's going to be low healing and low HP maybe, or a little bit from full HP, and will be forced to get a health back or use his bionic field ability, which is beneficial, which means he can't execute and use that ability during a fight.
Yeah, I'll get some speeds.
You could have, let's see if you can predict the soldier. Been doing what he just did. See the soldier, see the tiny little blocks. You could have placed a crosshair and like hit it. Even if you don't hit him that much, you touch him with splash damage. That's the beautiful thing about Farah. You don't need good aim, good crosshair placement, and you win. You just need splash damage, consistent splash damage. Like consistent splash damage and good ultimate usage and flanking, and a Farah with much worse aim than you would win every game against you. Because they would have ultimate 2 or 3 times faster every time, and they would be able to use it so frequently and often you wouldn't be able to understand how. In addition, they would avoid matchups they know they don't have advantages in, like close range brawls of Farah, etc. And they'd just try to fight again and kill your team instead of killing you in the sky as Farah. They would avoid the situation they have the disadvantage in. This is how a lower SR player could in some cases play against a higher SR player and win. It's possible. Because the higher SR player goes in, tries to brawl, meanwhile the lower SR player focuses on the basics and farms ultimate charge, etc. A lot of waters. Good cross replacement. One of the reasons why this is good, although you can't see the enemies, is also because they can see the rocket.
Yeah, I'm gonna go challenge him.
The thing is, you can still see them more than them when you're in this area with the palm trees, because there's a red enemy outline even behind it, but the rocket is not red. It's not a red enemy outline. Like, it glows a little bit, but it's tiny in comparison to how large enemies are. And the red outline is very
Yeah, I'm gonna go challenge him.
Figure out in addition and whatnot. So let's look at the aim technique. Right now, that's good. What you did there was good. That was good tracking. Here, that's good. You would have to do a little more left and a little bit lower, and you would have hit her. We'll hit the farm. But you need to avoid messy flicking.
Michael's low.
You go closer.
I need help.
Now, right now, you've already won the fight. You've got 3 picks. Is using any ultimate abilities, etc. It's gonna be
right side. We win this.
Let's look here.
With the fair still right side.
Good crosshair placement.
Right side. We win this.
Crosshair placement.
We win this.
A little bit of a flick. Micro flick. You actually did what I mentioned there. You don't realize it, but you do it. See? You did it again. 2 times.
I'm down.
But I noticed a lot of unnecessary flicks do happen all the time.
Oh, okay, you got it.
I'm waiting for. What? Fly to me?
Oh yeah.
I need healing still.
Right now you're spamming here, even though there's literally no enemies that can be in this position. You should have kept firing in this location, gotten all the damage off. Although you all have your barrage right now, so it doesn't matter. This is just criticizing.
Oh, I gotta.
Notice every time you fired a rocket in here, you hit nothing, but when you fired above it, you hit everything. You always hit every shot. Let's go back and you look at it again.
I need healing still.
And then we start firing here, nothing happens because they're still here, they're grouping up and waiting to respawn. So right now you're not really dealing any damage, you're spamming and wasting ammo. Now you can fire here, it's gonna start dealing damage. This doesn't seem like they used waited behind cover. Now what you could have done is you could have placed your crosshair up here. How could you predicted this? Let's look. As you were firing at them earlier.
Okay, you're taxing. Okay.
Let's see.
Oh yeah.
If you can predict this. Look at the soldier.
Oh, I gotta.
Oh yeah, he okay, you're taxing. Okay.
The soldier's walking on the bridge right now. Let's look at the fire. Look at the fire. The way the fire is hitting you. It's downwards. And soldier's fire. Soldier's currently high ground. You can't see him, but he's on the bridge. You can tell by this tiny information. You see right here? That's information on the soldier's positioning based on a trajectory and the line in which the fire presents itself. It's actually valuable information.
Thank you, kind.
A higher SR player would have then placed your crosshair here prematurely because he knew the soldier would have been in that position. If they kept moving, they would have checked that position right here and they would have placed your crosshair there predeterminedly. So you have a lot of details you're missing and not paying attention to. For one is when you come down.
Okay, you're taxing. Okay.
When you come down like this, you should never look on the ground like this. You should try to look a little bit slightly upwards, especially when it starts flying like this. You have no reason to ever have your crosshair here. You should always have your crosshair where the enemies might be, just in case, even if there's a minuscule chance, you should have your crosshair here. Because then, as you're moving up, if you place your crosshair and keep it here, as you're flying up, because of good crosshair placement, if you had your crosshair here, it would have been easier, taking less time to react by firing a rocket in there and zoning out the soldier.
Thank you, kind souls.
So, first and foremost, you need to work on your crosshair placement.
I'll hold this right side.
Like, this crosshair placement is not just, this is a big flaw. You would have this issue with every hero in the game. And that's something I can tell you is merely based off your fara. You have a lot of room for improvement with your crosshair placement.
Pharmacy behind.
Yep.
Now, if you're wondering how you can tell, I can tell the rocket. Like, if you might not notice it. Let's go here. Look. Look. Mercy got killed by the Farah. You can't see Farah. That's when you do a practiced 180 flick behind you. And when you do this, you should try to first look behind and below and then above. And then you look this way and this way. You check every angle. But the most important reaction is, like, you know how what I said about how higher SR players tend to have better decision making? As in, they make better decisions in the heat of the moment. Meanwhile, lower SR players, if given enough time to pay attention to these tiny details, would notice it after a repeated amount of times. But the higher SR players can notice it in the moment, when it matters. So let's look. Let's see if you can tell. Look at the HP.
For Mercy.
Look at the HP for Mercy. You can hear the fire rockets in the background behind you. You can see in the kill feed presently, it provides information. You have the Mercy's corpse falling in front of you. Lower SR players, given enough time to review their own gameplay, can spot these mistakes. Higher SR players can spot them in the moment when it happens. A higher SR player would have noticed that the Mercy was dying or taking damage about, I'll tell you.
Yeah, I got it.
Fair right side again?
Far right side again, Mercy takes damage. A higher SR player would have noticed by now. They would have reacted. You did not react. You tunnel visioned on this. You tunnel visioned on the soldier, from my understanding, as it was firing at you. You didn't notice other things going on in your background as this is happening. Mistake. In addition, the cross replacement on the second rocket, if you put it slightly more towards the left, you would have killed the soldier. You would have actually killed the soldier, even with the used to splash damage. So minor issue with the cross replacement. Situationally unaware, you're being killed by the Farah, you drop down for some reason because you think you're taking damage from the soldier for some reason due to lack of awareness. Dropping down right now is the worst thing you can do. Makes you an even easier target because it's easier for a Farah to hit you if she's above you in the air and chasing after you as you slowly go down.
Yep.
So you gotta call it several times. So this is 35 minutes.
Are we still in it?
Okay.
Honestly,
Okay, that's it for now. You won't receive any more. This is all I'm gonna give you for now, Damian. It's nice talking to you. And I'm gonna provide you with the link to the Raxu link and everything. I'm gonna put it here. Raxu video. Now I'm gonna provide you with some educational videos. Ta-na-na-na. Take good care.